What's your view, James Corbett, of what's happening in Europe, Greece, this open announcement by the Vatican for world government?
Well, that's unfortunately not too surprising to anyone who's been watching the Vatican in recent years and the calls for a new world order and everything that we've seen coming out of there. But certainly, I think the whole European situation just speaks once again to the fact that governments are just there to preserve themselves and don't care at all about the populations they're allegedly ruling over. And we see that with the Greek thing. This week it came out, it was a big deal. Oh my God, it's explosive information. Greece is actually going to give their population a chance to vote on this European bailout proposal that's going to put them and their children into servitude. They're actually going to get a vote on it. Imagine that. What a revolutionary idea. And the latest that I've heard, it's coming out today that, oh, no, actually, they're not going to give them a vote. They managed to strike a deal to transfer power over to the next group of thugs that are going to move the political football further down the field, so they don't have to give the people a vote at all. So that's good. That crisis is averted, because the crisis is not the idea that people are going to accept this. The crisis is the idea that people are going to say no, exactly like they did in Iceland, and they just can't have that. They can't give people a say in what's happening over their own lives.
Look, I could ask a lot of questions here, James, but on your radar screen, I asked this at the first, you brought up the radiation in Japan. What else are you really concerned about right now? I mean, we see this incredible global push to censor the internet, Homeland Security admitting they're ordering YouTube to censor videos critical of government. What's your view on all that?
Absolutely ridiculous and really disconcerting, but again, not really surprising for anyone who's been covering it for a while. But one of the subjects that I've been covering lately, and I think is really interesting and hasn't been getting a lot of attention, is the drug running aspects of the Fast and Furious debacle, which turns out to, as we now start to realize, it's a much bigger program. It was there in the Bush administration. It's been going on for a long time. So we know this is a big operation that's been unfolding for a while. And now that it's coming out in court documents that, oh yeah, they have to invoke this Classified Information Protection Act or whatever it's called in this the trial of this Sinaloa drug cartel gangster, because he's claiming, hey, I was just working for the U.S. government. I'm just part of the gang, you know. Now that that's coming out, they have to invoke this act so he can't speak in court anymore. So it turns out again that they're working with the drug lords in this crony monopolist manner to try to control the drug trade and try to monopolize it, and that's all part of this gun running program. It's just so mind-boggling. Corruption off the scale that I think in any other time, I mean, we could be talking about this for months and months and months, but now there's just so much going on and so much on our plates that it's difficult to keep all of these balls in the air at any one time, as you know.
We've got Fritz Springmeier coming up, but I want to take some calls with you. I want to give the number out right now. We'll take 5 or 6 calls for our next guest. The toll-free number to join us. We are live at 12:34 Central Standard Time. That's 1:34 Eastern, or I guess you could say 11:34 Mountain, or 10:34 Pacific,
or 2:34 Japanese Standard Time.
That's
2:34
right.
in the afternoon.
All right, we got Don in Michigan still holding from earlier. The toll-free number to join us is 877-789-ALEX, 877-789-2539. Open phones, 877-789-ALEX. Don in Michigan, you're on the air with the Corbett Report. Go ahead. Hello, Don. We are speaking to you from Austin, Texas. He fell asleep. He's been holding a while. All right, we just opened I didn't even know the phones were open yet. They told me a caller was still holding. So obviously he's probably already gone to sleep for the evening. So the phones are open, 877-789-ALEX. James Corbett, going back to all this, how much corruption can the system handle coming out? How much can they handle when it's just how incredibly criminal they are becomes more and more evident?
They can handle exactly as much as we can handle, and I think that's the point of it. Once again, this devolves to the people who have the real power and control over all of these systems. We always tend to look at the government and what the government officials are doing as if they're the real heart of this, but no, we are the heart. We are the base on which they build the foundations for all of their strictures and structures of control and all of their control over society. So when we start to say no, they crumble, and I think that's the the point of it. And we are getting to that point. As you know, we are reaching that critical mass, to use an unfortunate analogy, that we are really starting to take over this process. But it's always a question, are we doing enough, and have they set up their structures to capture us once we get out of the paradigm well enough? So it's really a race against time, but ultimately I think we are winning that race. And you, as you say, I mean, their corruption is going to start eating itself, as it always does and always has throughout history, that it gets to the point where the corruption is so rampant and is in so many corners and has been fostered for so long by so many different agencies and departments and multinational corporations that have all of these levers of power, that when these people, these parasites, get into all of these positions of power, they start feeding on each other because there's nothing left. So I think that is, in one way, is something to look forward to. In another way, we're all going to suffer when this economy starts to go down. But that's the only way, I think, to get through this and to really start to construct the type of system that we do want, instead of living under the reins of the rulers of the moment.
All right, folks, we are queuing up your calls right now. I just opened the phone system here a few minutes ago. We'll go to some calls for James Corbett here in a moment. We are doing a 27-hour marathon transmission. We are doing a money bomb. If you're watching, whether it's $1 or $1,000, your donations are welcome. We'll help fund hiring more people for the news staff and buying more equipment we need here. Look what we've built here with your support in the last few years. We've also got huge discounts on videos and books and things at Infowars.com. We have bumper stickers at cost in this new offensive we've launched. All available at Infowars.com. You can find the donate buttons, or InfowarsMoneyBomb.com. We also have a few crew members here back there to take your calls for phone call donations at 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. Here it is 12:38 and 27 seconds. We're talking to James Corbett of CorbettReport.com. James, looking at, I already mentioned the Orwellian stuff, but I mean, my gosh, it's becoming so crazy with street lights listening to you and watching you, and government with warrantless checkpoints and TSA everywhere. I mean, at a certain point, this is really becoming la-la land.
I mean, you couldn't make this up if you were trying, and trust me, people in the past have tried their best to make up the most outrageous stuff, and it's still nowhere close to what we're living through right now. USA Today coming out today, hotel guests recruited with Homeland Security TV spots, these PSAs inviting everyone to pretend they're James Bond and looking for the Al-Qaeda boogeyman under every bed and in every corner of the room, just getting more and more ridiculous and out in your face in the open. And as we've talked about before, I mean, this is part of the psychological operation to get people to commit to one side or the other. And they know there's going to be a lot of people that get woken up by this kind of in-your-face Orwellian tyranny. But there's going to be a lot of people who are going to buy into it because they are so invested in the system and in all of the things that are going on in their life. They just don't want to face it, and they will buy into all of this. And that is part of the strategy. And unfortunately, they've set up the whole Orwellian system to try to control those people and to oppress those people and to imprison those people who rise up against them. So it's a very difficult situation to combat unless we start to unlock more minds, which is the whole point of Infowars, is what it's all about, and I think what it has to be about at this point.
Well, that's right, James. Those that have already bought into corruption will just give into anything. Once you've said, I'm going to acquiesce to this, the sky's the limit. I want to go to phone calls here. Melvin in New York, then Harminder, Alex, Will, Joe, and Doug, and others. Melvin, you're on the air. Thanks for holding.
Alex, how you doing, man? I'm enjoying the show. I sent you 3 Federal Reserve notes that are probably worth a couple pennies you could trade in.
Thank you.
Thank you. And James, you're the man. I like your channel, and you have a great voice.
Thank you. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah, man. I wanted to let you know, at my school out here in New York, I took an urban study course about the history of New York, and the teacher was really slanted towards the left, and all the kids were group thinking with the whole brainwash of the liberalism. But the whole class was about capitalism and how capitalism started with slavery, and that the beginning of the country and the whole system that we live under, and to understand the whole 1913, the Federal Reserve, but they were teaching literally that capitalism comes from slavery, and that Peter Stuyvesant and all these collectivists had to come through and destate its these statists had to come, like, fix everything, put in curfews, you know, social engineering, and they needed the hand of tyranny to control the wild, ravenous people of New York, the uncontrollable. It was along that angle, and I mentioned the Illuminati, I mentioned all kinds of stuff in the class, and the teacher didn't refute anything I said, but the kids looked at me like I was an alien.
Well, look, all you got to know is the big bankers always fund communism. Capitalism, we're not under a capitalist system. Slavery is as old as humanity. Every group's engaged in that under tyranny. And they always push collectivism because they want to get people dependent so you're not independent. But, James, your view on that?
Well, I think you're right. Here's what I have to say about slavery. Slavery is all about how you define it. So, yes, absolutely, there was slavery going on in America hundreds of years ago, but there's still slavery going on today. It's just a different type. And
it's debt slavery, or they catch you using their drugs they brought in, and so now legally they make you a slave in a prison for 20 cents an hour.
That's it. I mean, they just don't call it slavery, so we don't have to talk about it, I guess. Or if they put in their collectivist system that they want to put in and make everyone share their wealth at the point of a gun, then that's not slavery. That's happiness or whatever they want to call it.
By the way, they make all discrimination about race or something instead of globalist banks getting bailout money and being exempt from their own laws. Melvin, final comment.
Yeah, man, my sister works for the TSA. I try to tell her about the body scanners. She tells me it's lies. I tell her, you know, it's in the instruction manual. You can see the private parts to lock it in, to lock the view in. She's like, how'd you find that out? How do they tell you? Then she gives me the excuse, well, look, even sometimes the government messes up, and look how they put the underwear bomber or the shoe bomber, whichever one of those it was, on the plane. By mistake, our CIA did it, so even we mess up.
Yeah, they spin it. The government put him on the plane by accident. Oh, yeah.
You have to submit. And then she gives me the other excuses. Oh, if you can't deal with this, then you can't be a passenger in Israel, because over there, they're real security.
Well, you notice America's got to be like Israel. We always hear that. We've got to have checkpoints everywhere because we're... No, incredible, Melvin. Good to hear from you. Your sister will wake up later. She'll have to wake up. Thank you. Harmander in Hong Kong. You're on the air with James Corbett. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. It's great to talk to you, and to you too, James. It's actually finally nice to talk to you because your show starts at 12 a.m. here, and I got to go to sleep to go to work the next morning.
Well, thank you, sir.
I just want to say that, Alex, you woke me up about a year ago from your last MoneyBomb. That's the first time I actually listened to you. And in that year, I've learned more about history, economics, common law, and all of that from you, more than I did from university.
Well, thank you, sir. We're just researching the real history. Thank you.
Exactly. I just want Americans to know that, you know, it's not futile to fight for what you believe in. It's not futile to get together and say, no, we will not stand for this. Example is here in Hong Kong. In 2003, they tried to pass what's known as Article 23. It's a national security law into our Constitution, the basic law here. And 500,000 people came out to protest against it, and they shelved it. Of course, they'll probably bring it out later on, but in 2003, they completely shelved it through people power. So nothing is impossible.
Well, that's the law of the universe. We have the power. We're taught we don't have power. And I got to hand it to folks in Hong Kong and Taiwan and places. Those folks know how to stand up and say no, and we need to discover that same thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just in July, they tried to take away our right to vote in by-elections because some legislators here quit because they weren't feeling that democracy in Hong Kong was maturing fast enough, so they quit and ran again in a special by-election that was supposed to be kind of a referendum on democracy. But through the disinfo, they said, look, they're wasting taxpayers' money. We got to plug this loophole and try to take away our by-election voting rights completely.
Yeah, the system always, it's causing problems that people can vote. It's causing problems that governments are in gridlock. Gridlock is good. You don't want a grease skid. You get a Hitler. You get a Napoleon. You want that. You want to have things go through a process, not be instantaneous. James, you got a comment?
Well, I echo that completely, and I just invite people to look at some of the coverage of this this Greek vote idea that came up in the last few days, and you'll see that people are. I mean, it's being referred to as an explosive idea to give people
our
a vote
media.
on this.
Greece doesn't owe this money. They're about to be signed on as debt slaves. Can you believe they want to be able to vote on it? The extremism of it is so evil.
Luckily, they won't get the chance now. Ha ha ha.
Exactly. I heard like on Bloomberg a month ago, we'll take over and get all the money. Don't worry. You know, good to hear from you from Hong Kong, my friend. Alex in Texas, a little closer to home. Go ahead, Alex. Hey, Alex from Texas, you there?
Hey, can you hear me, Alex?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
All right, sorry about that. It's good to talk to you and James as well. Actually missed you. I tried to actually meet you down at the Federal Reserve building, but we got there a little bit late. I guess you'd already been down there in the rain that day.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you, my friend.
No problem. It's an honor to talk to you. I actually talked to you a few money bombs ago. It was actually a few years ago, and I don't know if you actually remember it. I pressed you a little bit, but I had just woken up at that time. We had talked about Zeitgeist. You remember that?
I've had a lot of calls about Zeitgeist and the big plastic cities we're going to live in under a loving computer that runs our whole life, and I'm just not enlightened enough to not want to live in the plastic city.
I know. Well, I apologize. I actually pressed you a little hard then. And,
I love it. I listen, if you want to live in a plastic city with a robot controlling you, be my guest. But I should have the right to not live in the re-education camp.
Definitely. And since then, I've watched a lot of your videos, and you've actually woken me up, and I really appreciate what you do. And I'm actually a veteran myself, and, you know, actually being in the military, I saw all the compartmentalization and just really how you talk about that. You really don't see what other departments are doing. You don't really know, you know, what the higher-ups are doing. You're just doing what you're told, and that's it. So it's basically I've tried to do my best to pass your videos on and wake people up. My brother has actually just become a Kentucky State Trooper, so I've actually passed on a lot of your videos to him, and he's actually woken up as well. So it's actually good that we're getting more law enforcement.
Every person you wake up is one step closer to victory. And again, you're not even waking them up to our info. Just get them to look at history, get them to look at the facts, and they'll see the reality.
And he fought me on it. He was, you know, special forces. He went to Afghanistan. He, you know, actually had to kill people over there. And it was a really hard, you know, thing to actually wake him up. But the information that you put out, and I've actually even sent him some of James's videos as well. He's actually woke up to, you know, the truth of what's going on in the world. So thank you for that as well. But now he's in a position to actually do something about it and bring information forward. So that's great. So.
Well, thank you so much, Alex. That's really an exciting call. James, what's your take on what Alex just said?
Well, absolutely. Let me thank Alex as well, because if it isn't for people like him, not only confronting their own paradigm and breaking out of it and learning the true history, but then passing that along to others, if people don't do that, then we are lost. So without people like Alex out there handing this information out and getting people to look at it, we're not going to win. So absolutely, my hat's off to everyone out there who's doing that in whatever form you can. You don't have to have a website or a radio show or whatever, just in whatever way you can get this information out. That's the way we're going to win in the end.
You're right. Alex, God bless you. Anything else?
Yeah, I constantly put those videos up on my Facebook to wake people up constantly and get in those arguments. And really, Alex, you and Ron Paul are my heroes, so thank you once again.
Well, thank you. Look, I'm just an average person who studied history and knows the facts. And my main mission is to get other people involved, like James Corbett and countless others. And that's why we're going to win. Truth is truth. That's the end of it. Look at all these lines. I've got like 12 more people on hold. We've got 10 minutes left with James Corbett. Then we're going to go to break.
Let's give them all 10 seconds.
That's exactly. Well, I try to shut up. That's the one good thing about a burnout Alex Jones, who's been on the radio for 13 hours now. God almighty, I got a lot of hours to go.
It's good our situations are reversed now, because it's usually me at 2 or 3 in the morning, bleary-eyed, staring into the webcam, but now it's a beautiful, sunshiny day, so I'm up and I'm awake.
And it's black as Stygian night here in Austin, Texas. The stars are shining in the firmament. The night
I love
is
it when
cool.
you get poetic, Alex.
That's right, waxing poetic. Let's go to Will in Oklahoma. You're on the air. Will, welcome.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Alex, and James, good to talk to you too. First off, you're not just an average person, Alex. You're actually, like the gentleman said last week, you're an encyclopedia, and I truly believe that you are extremely smart and an above-average person, and appreciate everything you do. I've already donated today, and I'm a Prison Planet TV member. And I just first want to say, everybody out there that's listening, even if you guys got to donate. It's time to at least spread this message. And
I forget while we're here for 24 hours or 27 hours, we are trying to raise money to hire some more crew members and buy some equipment. You can donate at InfowarsMoneyBomb.com or Infowars.com or 888-253-3139. Thank you, my friend, for pointing that out, Will. What else was on your mind?
Well, first off, I'm calling from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I don't know if you've caught one of the most tweeted articles the other day about the Tulsa World and Occupy Tulsa, but a bunch of people down here got pepper sprayed because they wouldn't step on the sidewalk after curfew. You have to pay $100 a day to protest here in Tulsa at the spot where they've decided to protest. And also, if you have a group of people, you have to have $1 million insurance liability is also required. And obviously that's ridiculous, simply exercising your rights to free speech and assembly. So,
well, I mean, the government acts like if you want free speech or to be involved, like you're some 8-headed monster spewing venom out of your mouth, which just shows how criminal and out of control and sickening this government's gotten. Thank you, Will. Your take on that, Corbett?
I just concur with you exactly. It's they look at you like the 8-headed monster. They look at you like they live when they discover this one can see. We've got one.
This person wants to demonstrate. They want to speak to their government. They're informed. They want to end the private Federal Reserve. This is terrible. Oh, God almighty. If he was only like a peace president murdering people, then it would be okay.
Yes, if you're not a Peace Prize laureate and all for kinetic peace actions all around the world, then you must be. There's something wrong with you.
If you're not blasting children's skin off their faces lovingly, you're with Al-Qaeda. If you're not giving Libya to Al-Qaeda, you're with Al-Qaeda. Joe in Philly, you're on the air. I think he just hung up. Let's talk to Doug in New Jersey. Doug, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex, what's going on, brother? James, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Listen, Alex, I just want to let you know I appreciate everything. I know everybody likes to suck up to you and everything, but I do appreciate everything that you do. You woke me up.
Oh, are you kidding? I appreciate you. You're the folks out there getting all the work done, fighting the globalists.
No, listen, man, we are out here. I'm out here waking people up. We are literally in the fight. Info warriors for you. Anybody? I mean, I know it's not just you. We check all the information. It's all there for everybody to research. I mean, I think it's hysterical that the statistic came out with the 47% of guns. I mean, I just got my gun permit. We're Second Amendment. We're getting it out there. But
by the way, Doug, you shouldn't. Obviously, New Jersey, you should have to get a permit. I've had Texans tell me I'd like to have a gun, but I have to get a permit. Most states you don't have to. I was in Vegas. I went to a shooting range where they shoot machine guns or whatever. In Las Vegas, it's real popular, and people were coming out going, I'm a fan of your show, and someday I'll be able to have a permit to own a gun. There's no laws in Nevada, unless you're a felon. But obviously, New Jersey, I think, has got a pretty much of a clamp down. But, it's your right. But go ahead.
Oh, no, you're totally right. I mean, we have to, fill out the mental health paperwork, and then you got to get the fingerprints done, and then do the whole background check. I mean, I have to get, recommendations sent to, the way to get it through faster is you get, former police officers or, police officers on duty, and this is the way they speed up the process. Normally it takes 3 months, but it is absolutely ridiculous. But two questions for you. I could ask you 100, but the Thrive movement movie, have you heard about this?
No, I haven't. Tell me more about it.
Okay. I don't know. I saw an ad for it. Apparently there's a movie coming out called, if you go to thrivemovement.org or .com, one of the two, I don't know, it goes in and talks about the Federal Reserve, the bankers, that there's this energy. Basically, aliens came here, kind of a whole David Icke kind of thing. But I did a little more research into it, and apparently that the guy directing the movie or came out with it with the funding is all by Procter and Gamble. So I don't know if that.
What's the name of it again?
ThriveMovement.com or .org, one of the two. But it's supposed to be coming out 11/11/11, so in the next week or two.
Well, I'll check into that. Thank you so much. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you do want to see us continue to fight the globalists, make more films, do more nightly news reports, hire more people, expand what we're doing, donate. We're not the government that comes with a gun to your head and say, give us money or it's over. We're here saying, hey, buy the books, the videos, donate at Infowars MoneyBomb. Call 888-253-3139. Donate if you believe in this. We've broken $200,000. And I'll be happy as long as we hit $300,000 by the end of the show tomorrow. But if you believe in what we're doing, I don't want folks that are of meager means to donate to us. People out there that have means, that are doing okay in this depression, donate to the Infowars MoneyBomb, because who can doubt this is the biggest bang for the buck, what we're doing here. James Corbett is our guest. I will go to Joey, Theodore, Brian, Joe, Randy, Jeff. I'm doing pretty good, actually, taking calls. I'm usually pretty obnoxious and just rant endlessly over news articles. Your calls are coming up. We got Fritz Springmeier coming up. You'll get to talk to him. We got to say bye to James Corbett at CorbettReport.com. We've got about 2 minutes left before we go to this video of earlier of the health ranger, Mike Adams, back there juicing carrots and apples for us. What a great guy. He comes in to fill in for a few hours when I take a break, and he ends up making us all healthy juice. What a great guy. That's coming up. Then I'll play another report from Darren McBreen before we go to our next guest. But in the last minute or two, you got the final word, Mr. Corbett.
Well, as we've gone over today, there's just so much going on right now, and it's so hard to keep all the balls in the air. But just once again, let me give my hats off to the whole Infowars team and everyone that I know who's working behind the scenes there as well to get this up and going and keep that tip of the spear, just keep driving further and further into the heart of the New World Order. So once again, I hope the Corbett Report listeners can help drive you over 300,000. Let's see. But at any rate, my hats off to all your work, and thank you again for continuing to cover Fukushima, because of course it's been buried in the news cycle, but it's still going on and still worrying things happening over here. So I'll do my best trying to keep my eye on it, and thank you for covering it.
Well, thank you, James. There goes James Corbett of the Corbett Report. We're going to go to break here in a minute or so and play a never-before-seen video I shot on my iPhone. Actually, I just uploaded it to YouTube, but never-before-seen as we transmit live here a few hours ago with Mike Adams in there juicing. I show up, well, I'm already on the air, but I show up in the break room, and Mike Adams is in an apron in there. So I thought, I got to shoot video of this. So a little bit of behind-the-scenes coming up, and then one more video clip. After that, I'll let Jaron pick one of the nightly news reports or one of McBreen's reports. And then we're going to come back with Fritz Springmeier joining us via video Skype for his third interview with us in the last week since he got out of prison and is now able to actually speak out, author of Bloodlines, the Illuminati. It's all coming up straight ahead on the other side. If you want to be part of this historic transmission, you're here watching it, you're spreading the word about it, that's awesome. You can also donate at InfowarsMoneyBomb.com or Infowars.com or 888-253-3139. Our great crew are in there answering the phones right now. We'll be right back. Well, Aaron, after 6 months of off and on doing research, is trying to get the Skull and Bones Never Before breaking news from Charlotte Iserbyt together. She's the lady that gave Anthony Sutton his info. We're going to try to air that in the morning. Got a bunch of breaking stuff during this 24-hour Money Bomb. We're going to upload this to the rant sections of PrisonPlanet.tv and the YouTube channel. But I had to show folks this. He doesn't even know I'm going to do this. Mike Adams, who's filling in for a couple hours when I take a break here, Mike Adams has invaded with demon food. He's angry that we're eating pizza and stuff, and it's all this organic produce.
Yeah, man.
And look, he's got the patriotic
Liberty juice. That's what we got going on.
Exactly.
50 pounds.
And then over here, that's what's running the Infowars operation. And then over here, how nice of you, Mike.
Yeah. We're making juice for everybody, the whole crew, and just fresh, organic. Everything's organic, non-GMO.
Fresh Al-Qaeda?
Yeah, Al-Qaeda carrots. That's what.
But I mean,
demon.
Should the government raid this, though?
Well, I mean, you never know because look, I mean, you could do something like this.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, we're just juicing for everybody.
And then you can compost that out.
Yeah, this is actually going to my donkeys back at the ranch. They're going to eat this.
Well, they got a good life.
You bet they do. And everybody here is enjoying the juice.
The donkeys love you?
They do. Yeah. So, you know.
Donkeys are good guard dogs, too.
Really?
Did you know that? No, they'll like attack stuff that comes around and warn you. And
well, ours are mischievous.
They'll honk if, you know, or neigh or whatever that dog is. I got neighbors got donkeys. I live out in the country. Well, Mike, you're filling in for 2 hours a day, doing a great job. Right. So I can have a break over the 27 hours. What are you going to be covering?
We're going to be covering the raw milk protest that just took place 2 days ago. We got people calling in from the riots in Oakland. Reporting on that, they smashed in the front doors to a Whole Foods store there. There's a lot of news breaking on that, and a couple other things. It's all good, hard-hitting news.
And again, I'm sorry to barge in on you with this.
It's all right, man.
Is it cool if I put this on the web?
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah,
okay, good. I probably should have turned the radio off too while I was in here babbling.
That's okay. We got a little bit of a hassle, slowed the line down, but.
Yeah, we're playing one of McBrain's reports. I'll take a 5-minute break, but of course I can't take a break because of the elf that came into the office and invaded with his devilish food.
Well, we're going to make sure everybody's got lots of juice for the day.
I'm going to eat one of those apples. Those look really good.
Yeah, these are great.
Good job, Mike. Thank you.
Fun. We'll see you later.
Well, there goes Mike Adams. And there goes Aaron Dykes, also known as Schnecky. Hey, Aaron. Oh, and look, over here. Another person. Hello. You got the Nick Begich thing you're getting together. We may air this in the next 27 hours. We may. I got to get back in there.
Back to you.
Now they're going to play another report. Anyways, they're just playing some of the reports out there. So you got this Begich thing coming up, pretty power-packed.
Yeah.
Good job, Rob. Okay, folks, that's it. I supposedly took a 10-15-minute break, but of course I ended up shooting videos. So I'm going to go get this uploaded to the rant section of prisonplanet.tv and also up at our YouTube channel. Tell everybody to join us for the 4th annual Money Bomb going on at InfowarsMoneyBomb.com. The revolution will be transmitted as long as we can. Hey guys, how you doing? I'm Alex Jones.
Good, how you doing?
Good. Can you just repeat? You're saying this is private property?
I don't know. This is the captain.
Sure, go ahead, sir.
This is the property of the Federal Reserve right here. I just
private, though. It's not federal, right?
Yeah, private property.
Okay.
I need you to go back to the public street.
I think, you know what? It is private property. I think you're right. We will get off. You're absolutely right. Let me just ask you this one question. And I'm going to ask everybody to move off the private property of the Federal Reserve. Doesn't this look like a post office? And it's got federal seals on it? It says Federal Reserve? It's like counterfeiting or something. It'd be like if people opened up a...
No, the Fed doesn't counterfeit, do they?
I think that's something police ought to investigate.
Yeah, really.
I mean, just down the road. Doesn't this kind of look weird? It's a federal building, but it's not federal.
I mentioned that to them. They said that there was
I'm sorry. What did you say?
Not a federal building.
It's not a federal building.
It's a
10 years ago, cops would laugh at me about that. I'm excited you know.
However, you're welcome to call our public affairs or call our head office in Dallas and speak with them.
No, sir, you've been super nice. You're right. Some people thought it was like a park because it looked like a post office. You're right. This is private property. We better get up. We better go. Hey, guys, well, they do get our tax money, and they do control everything.
Enslave us!
I mean, sure, they are the slave masters, but see, that you heard the police officer. He's right. This is private property, so we want our private property. Now, it's private property of a mafia, of a criminal cartel, but nevertheless, it's their private property for now, and until they're indicted and in prison, we won't, and until, we finally get the audit, and the Congress raids all the material, we're gonna respect their private property until then. So let's get off the private property of the Federal Reserve right now. Come on, everybody. Let's go. Get off the private property.
I got that whole conversation if you want to email it.
Police officers out here tonight, this beautiful weather, here protecting our First Amendment. And I wonder how many of these police officers can read on the sign, Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, federal, but right here says private property. Does that sound like fraud to you? Private property, Federal Reserve? Can't you investigate it? There's the criminals right there. Yeah! We didn't have these people, so the cops did. We didn't have
question for you. You're here guarding the private offshore Rothschild Bank, the Federal Reserve, from evil Americans. Evil Americans. I know you get the Homeland Security report saying those who don't like the Federal Reserve are evil. I've read the Homeland Security reports where they tell cops the Federal Reserve is federal and that we're raving lunatics. Really, their charter is private. Right there. Private property, no trespassing. Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. It doesn't say federal zone, federal property, stay off slaves. It says private property, no trespassing. Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back live. It is 1:11. It is 1:11 Central Standard Time. I'm Alex Jones, your host, and I have been here since 11 a.m. yesterday. I'm going to be here with you until the end of the show tomorrow. We got Paul Watson popping in. We got Gerald Celente coming on, Aaron Dykes, and he's also here with his Chihuahua, Rocky. So all of that is coming up. Fritz Springmeier is with us via video Skype. Somehow we got our wires crossed. He thought it was tomorrow he was on, but he's a trooper. He's joining us here in just a moment. Fritz Springmeier, political prisoner, who completely got set up many years after they said it happened for a bank robbery. We went over that earlier in the week. He's an author, researcher, Bloodlines, the Illuminati, and many other books, and he is going to be joining us here in just a moment. I know we have Joey, Theodore, Brian, Joe, Randy, Jeff, Brian, and Carrie. I'll get to you before I bow out, which I can't imagine how Texas legislature has the national record on filibuster. In fact, you guys could Google it. I think it's like 2.5 days. I mean, I have been up here pretty much nonstop talking since 11 a.m., so that's only 12, 13 hours. And 14 hours, whatever, and I am exhausted. I am punch drunk from talking. But I guess when they do a filibuster, they pretty much just babble about whatever issue to block some piece of legislation. But I am not as made as of strong stuff as some Texans, I will tell you. Now, continuing to talk to people here, if we go over to this camera, I will talk to folks over here and get into some of the issues with them. Is Fritz back now at the camera? Yes. Okay, Fritz Springmeier is here. He's with us for the rest of the hour. Fritz Springmeier, we appreciate him joining us. And we had Texe Mars on earlier, Tarpley, Joel Skousen, Dr. Katherine Albrecht, George Noory. We also had, of course, David Icke, who said hi to Fritz and his work. Darren McBreen is here with his reports that we've also been airing throughout the evening. And we've got a lot of others coming up. Jim Mars, Bob Chapman, Celente, as I mentioned. And we're going to premiere a Inside Skull and Bones with Charlotte Iserbyt, who first gave the intel to Anthony Sutton decades ago to expose it. Some breaking stuff coming up at 7 a.m. today. Don't forget, we're doing the 4th annual MoneyBomb to fund hiring more reporters, more crew members, funding our operation, and getting equipment we dearly need. If you want to donate, be part of this money bomb, it's Infowars, MoneyBomb.com or Infowars.com. We have folks still answering the phones up there, 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. We also have a lot of items being auctioned right now on eBay. We have a link to that at Infowars, MoneyBomb.com. Like this bullhorn right here, the sledgehammer we used to break into the other side when we expanded the offices a year ago, and all of that available at InfowarsMoneyBomb.com if you want to find out more and be part of that. Now we take you to Fritz Springmeier, researcher, author, West Point graduate, patriot, author, who is a political prisoner and is now free and has bravely come on the show, the radio once this week in the nightly news. He joins us now for the marathon 27-hour transmission. And Fritz joining us via video connection. It's good to have you with us.
Good to be with you and all the listeners.
Well, there's a lot to talk about here, and I'm sorry we got our wires crossed. You thought you were on tomorrow, but here we are.
It's still Thursday here.
It's what?
It's still Thursday here.
It's still Thursday here. It's like 11:14 your time, right?
Yeah.
Fritz, look, you were saying what I want to cover. You know, I asked all the questions in the last 2 interviews. What do you think is most important? Let me give Fritz Springmeier the floor.
Wow. One of the most important issues is the mind control. And I would say as an extension of that, just a way that they can manipulate events. Since I came onto your show, and I'm not going to get into any specifics, but people around me have been manipulated and in a way to persecute me. Pretty amazing if you see how it all goes together. Years ago, I visited with a man who had, by chance, he wasn't supposed to have seen this, but anyway, he was allowed to see it, and the engineer that showed him didn't think that anyone would believe him if he did tell what had happened. Anyway, he was in front of one of the Beast computers, and you can talk to the Beast computer just like you and I are talking, and you could ask the computer about certain things or about anybody, and the computer would tell you about anybody, and then you could ask the computer what would be a plan to manipulate their life in a certain way, and the computer, knowing that individual better than we know ourselves, would come up with a plan. And he was amazed. He was floored. In fact, the whole thing was so devastating to him. He was like a basket case for about a year after he was shown the capabilities of what they're able to do. But it's been interesting to see what's happened since I was on your show. Reactions from both sides, and of course you have a great set of listeners, and I haven't even counted how many email responses. It's going to take me days to get caught up with all of them, but people need to know that things are manipulated far beyond their comprehension.
Well, I mean, you know, Fritz, I wanted to be careful in our interview to not get into areas that the feds have threatened you on, but I didn't know this when we called you up to get you on tonight. I don't want to get into specifics or whatever, get you in more trouble, but you're saying you're being harassed or pressured because you came on this week?
Yes, there was a reaction, let's put it that way. Very interesting. And I won't get into the specifics. Yeah, it's interesting. Anyway. That's all I'll say. Yeah, so I think it's important for people to understand both the mind control and how they manipulate events. There was a Illuminati kingpin, and he said that the whole world's a stage. What we're seeing on the news is just staged events. And, you know, they're manipulating things in the Middle East. They're manipulating things here and there. And it's all being manipulated for a grand design. And I think that's important for people to understand, that these things aren't happening randomly. And one way that one thing that helps people to understand the extent of the control is to begin to understand their totally undetectable total mind control.
Now, Fritz, looking at mind control, obviously the public is starting to wake up. There's a big awakening happening. Have the globalists foreseen this? Are the globalists happy about what's happening? How is their plan moving forward right now? And what would they like to set up? If they could have their druthers, what would the world look like?
Okay, several questions there. One is I was hoping when I exposed the Illuminati's total mind control with 3 books, and within those books were about 40 pages of the actual codes. And as you go on television and other places, even sitting in some of these churches, like what you were talking about the other night, these apostate churches, you're going to hear these code words said repeatedly. And I had hoped that, exposing it all would mean that they would have to change their agenda, sort of retool all of their codes and everything. Hasn't happened. They just kept on trucking. It was like that goes back to what we were talking about the other night, how they really don't think we're going to make any effect. Because they just kept on trucking. They didn't change their programming scripts. They didn't change their codes. They just kept on. It's been a surprise to me. As to what we see coming down the pike, well, one of the things, like I said, and you can get a picture of this in the novel Brave New World, is where they're going to control reproduction, and they're going to be, the state is going to be manufacturing people. They're going to reduce the population. And you might wonder why they could be so heartless as to wipe out most of us. Because these people don't perceive us as any different than an ant. Alex, if you were walking on the street and you stepped on an ant or 10 ants, it wouldn't even cross your mind. And that's, people that have been associated up at the top have said that that's their attitude. And indeed, you look at history and it's the truth. For 100 or 1,000 of us to die means no more to them than if they stepped on an ant. And so we're going to see drastic population reduction. And the United States, as a political entity, has been committed by law to encourage other countries to reduce their population. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with all of this. And you're
sure, State Department Memorandum 200 and others.
Exactly. We see this, we see the big boys, Rockefellers, Rothschilds, and their companies and industry polluting, and then they come along and set themselves up as if they're these great environmentalists. And you talked about that the other night when we were talking about these false environmentalists. And so we're going to continue to see this mock war to protect the environment. That's going to continue because they're able to manipulate so much. It's important to them to continue having several of these wars going on, the drug war, the war on pollution and so forth, because it gives them the right to come in and manipulate and control our lives. One of the things that they love to do is get us to ask them to do what they want to do. Most amazing, and I've sat here and watched over the last 20 years, it works. They begin a program, it's a step-by-step thing, and before you know it, the common people are begging them to do what they had in mind to do from the very beginning.
So that's the problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah, it all ties together, exactly. So, just, people are wondering why would they bring in a one world religion, just another control thing, get rid of those that have a conscience, and use religion as a way of manipulation. You can already see this. You can already see the mainline denominations oftentimes use religion other religions do it too, as a form of power and manipulation. And they'll just continue the process.
How are things, as I mentioned earlier, how are things going for the Illuminati right now?
In general, pretty good. They had a slight problem here a few years ago that they're now going to rectify with part of their plan. Their plan's going to fit in. Is going to help them very comfortably manage it. The problem that arose was that you had a lot of new wealth, and that kind of situation happens whenever you have new frontiers. You know, like in the gold rush days or in the railroad days. Well, with the computers, we've had new wealth come in. And the new wealth is committed to the system. They're people that are part of the system, you know. They may be assets of the CIA or NSA or whatnot or other things, but they're not as directly controlled by the Illuminati as their own members. Even though these people are pro-system and they're not trying to buck the system, what we have is what's called a rubber band effect. When something is ordered or something is wanted by the Illuminati, it doesn't get done because we have thousands of very wealthy people that are not Illuminati, and they have a mind of their own. So when the system says we need to do this, we need to do that, the reaction doesn't go like they want it.
That's why they want to get rid of the middle class. That's why they want to centralize control. That's why they want total government surveillance, because they want instant robotic submission.
Right. That's why they're going to take the American dollar down, because the new wealth has their money in American dollars, where the old wealth, like the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, DuPonts, they have had time over the years to build up the foundations, the tax-exempt foundations, to put their money into land, to diversify to a point around the world that if they collapse the American dollar, they're still going to have their power when it's all said and done.
So again, I don't want to interrupt you. Go back. So they're waging war against their own nouveau riche, against their own new rich.
Right. Exactly. And so we're going to see those thousands of new rich people taken down and humbled. You could use that word. They're going to be humbled. And it's part of a solidification of power by the Illuminati. They're wanting to take the American dollar down anyway because they're wanting to break America. Americans have too much freedom. We have too much mobility, and we have too much wealth. And all that translates into Americans are able to make decisions for themselves. They're able to travel places on their own. And this is just unacceptable. It's
hold on. You just hit the nail at the core. The TSA, the federal police force, it's all about domestic checkpoints, training the general law-abiding public that you're a criminal, we're putting our hands on you, we're searching you, no more Fourth Amendment. But it's always been the ultra-rich waging war on the middle class who are independent and don't want to be slaves. So you're absolutely hitting the core here, Fritz. My mission, I think, is to reach the middle class and to tell them, hey, organize against this. I mean, do you see any hope in resisting these people?
Well, you're directing your message to a good class of people. What a lot of people don't realize is if you go back and study history, revolutions came out of the middle class. Yeah. People that are in a survival mode, they're not thinking about fighting. They're thinking about where their next meal is going to come from. The American Revolution was created by a middle class. That was the leadership was upper and middle class, And so you're making a very wise decision there in trying to target people that have the means and a little bit of free time to actually constructively do something.
Yeah, no, that's who I've always felt called to go to people, because I think of nothing of myself. I know there are people who are greater men than I. They need to stand up, I mean, not be run over. And if I can break them out of their trance and point this out, they will become engines against this tyranny. And because I historically see the programmers, the globalists, the social engineers, we call the Illuminati, are always waging war against that independent free class, because that's their threat.
Right. And don't discount anybody anywhere. I mean, you know.
No, I'm not discounting anybody. There's native talent everywhere. I just see the elite waging war on the middle class. Why is that?
They want to eliminate the middle class. The middle class is targeted for extinction. There's certain groups that seem to be, they just flat are targeted for elimination. The middle class is targeted for elimination. The blacks in Africa are targeted for elimination in Central Africa. The multinational corporations would like to have a lot more control and free reign in Central Africa, which has a lot of wealth.
By the way, it came out in Uganda a month ago, even in the New York Times, and in Honduras, the UN and World Bank line people up and just shoot them, and the liberals are like, it's for the earth, murder everyone. I mean, there's almost like a craziness now where things before that would be scandalous, that would have been incredible, are now just, no big deal.
You're right. I was listening as I was driving around town today to the radio, and having been gone for a while, is nice from one vantage point, because I can see some of the ships. And I noticed that they have created this gladiatorial thinking within the public, bloodlust. Oh, now we're going to have this opponent against this, and they're going to duel, and they're going to have a fight to the finish. You had some of it before, but it's definitely intensified.
Well, it's the sale of torture is cool, and secret arrest is cool, and police state is cool. No, it's not cool to see us being turned into animals.
Right.
Fritz, I've got so many questions for you. They're talking about this new war with Iran. All this is happening. I want to get into that with you, but at the very highest, ultimate, paramount level of the Illuminati, I know you don't. Who is in command of it? Is it the Rothschilds, the British Transylvanian bloodline? I mean, who is at the very top? And because David Icke today was commending you when he was on with us, saying you're right on target. I mean, who are these people? What is their goal?
Well, the Illuminati has different areas of control. The Rothschilds are in charge of the finances, but some of the other bloodlines are in charge of the rituals, like the Collins are very powerful in the rituals. So the power has been split up and diversified. You can see a parallel in nowadays. For instance, let's say you go into court. The judge is taking the recommendation of somebody else. So he's able to say, well, I'm not guilty of this decision. I just followed the recommendation of blah, blah. And then the people that made the recommendation or Child Services Division or whoever, they're saying, well, we're not responsible. The judge made the decision. It's sort of like another analogy is you have a bomber and it drops bombs, but everybody along the way can deny responsibility. Same way with the Illuminati. The power is diversified, and the way things are accomplished is split up. And so there's
Let me stop you again. Fritz, you were so profound because when I've studied this, that's what they do. Like with the actuaries and the insurance and the derivatives, they always share the responsibility but limit it to where no one can figure out where the power comes from, so there's no one to blame for what they do. I mean, it's so devilish, and it's always a tropism, like a plant growing towards the sun. It's a certain system they build where you can never pinpoint the heart of it. I mean, is that what you're getting at?
Exactly. In fact, this reaction to me being on your program follows that whole scenario. It's kind of involved, and it's not something I can discuss, but it's been interesting to see that there was such a quick reaction.
Continuing, you were getting into how they always insurance off the blame. They always shadow who's in charge to where you can never get to the enemy.
Right, and each of the individuals involved in carrying out something can pass the buck mentally and say, well, I'm not responsible for this. I was only doing this. I was only the mechanic that repaired the bomber. I was just following orders when I pushed the bomb bay to release the bombs. I was only the navigator. It was somebody else that pushed the buttons that released the bomb. And so down the line, even with the Illuminati kingpins, even they have a lot of deniability, because they can say, well, I'm just following what was planned by previous generations. I'm just working with these other families. I'm just honoring the family's commitment. The circle, they call their family, or they refer to their family as the family or the circle. Don't break the circle. They've got all these little ways of keeping themselves committed to the plan. And that's it. They're following a plan, They're following orders, even the guys at the top. And I don't want to paint a picture that these guys at the top are just pure evil, because life's more complicated than that. And you'll see some of these leading Illuminati kingpins, they're the philanthropists of the world. They're the ones that are doing great deeds. They do greater deeds than I'll ever do.
Well, no, the Illuminati talks about this balance. They create war, but they create peace. They're like trying to occupy the universal sphere.
Exactly. They're Gnostics. They want their good deeds to be balanced by their bad deeds, and their bad deeds to be balanced by their good deeds. This balance. And so you're going to continue to see this dynamic, this Hegelian philosophy and all of this Gnostic balancing. You're going to continue to see that. We've seen some advancements, and we're going to continue to see some advancements in science and in other areas, medical and communication advancements.
Well, I was about to add, I have been through channels threatened over the years by certain groups, but other powerful groups have reached out and said, off record, you're only allowed to operate because you bring balance. So they see it almost like I'm a manifestation of something, you're a manifestation of something. You particularly went after certain groups, they put you in prison, but that's how their whole worldview basically works.
Correct. Exactly. And on my 9/11 talk, which you were generous and made available to the public, I talked about the caduceus. It's a symbol of health, but it's representative of that balancing that they try to...
Well, let's start over. I'm going to shut up and give you the floor. Go into 9/11 symbolism, Fritz. I'm going to shut up and give you 10 minutes, unabated, break down 9/11 and the Twin Towers, the whole twin columns, the whole thing. You've got the floor.
it's obvious that the targets that were picked for the 9/11 attack were iconic. They were meant to evoke certain things from people. And just getting right to the point, towers have, in the psyche of humans for thousands of years, represented security. And so an attack on the World Trade Center towers was an attack upon the security of the United States. What it did was, on a subconscious level, is make people feel insecure, that we can't protect ourselves, that we're vulnerable.
And 9/11's the number for security. That's when it happened. Please continue.
Yes. There you go, that dichotomy again, you know. And you'll see that in the mind control. Like everything false is real, you know. I mean, it's this.
Yeah. I'm interrupting again. Seriously, you got the floor. I'm not going to interrupt again. Just start over. Get into 9/11.
You're welcome to. I love your comments, and I can see why over the years you have built up so many fans and so many listeners. And you make it fun for people. And it should be. It should be interesting and fun for people. 9/11 has a tremendous amount of symbolism. 11 has a tremendous amount of symbolism. 11 stands for towers, and towers come into Illuminati symbology in a lot of ways. And they tie back in with, for instance, the Habsburgs. One thing I pointed out in the 9/11 talk was that even our dollar sign has the twin towers of the Habsburgs in it. People don't realize, why are there two lines? It's because those were Habsburg towers, and those symbols then got onto the Spanish dollar, and then the Americans adopted it from the Spanish. So it has a long history. They picked their targets very well. Then the other target being the Pentagon, which represents, you know, our protecting us too, our military. United States can't even protect the most sacred, holiest building of the military, the heart. You know, the Pentagon. It was attacked. So it conveys to people that the United States is truly under attack and can't protect itself. And with that, you're able to bring in the Patriot Acts and all the rest, because people are just terrified. You've watched it. You've watched the manipulation. Some more about the symbology. Wow, there's just a lot of, it goes on and on. One of the significant things is 11/11. You see the numbers 11/11 in related to the 9/11 terrorist attack. You see 11/11 pop up in many different ways. Well, 11/11 symbolizes a shift to a new era, or a new, in the occult. 11/11 is very powerful numbers, and as I just got through saying, representing a door or a portal into a new period or a new time, new era.
Fritz, stop right there, because because I've heard you like pausing, waiting for me to cut in. I'm listening to you. Get into 11/11, new portal, new gate, new time, new beginning, kind of 2012 type stuff. But also, and I want you to speak to this after you're done talking. Finish, take your time here. But after you get into that, why do they have Fox TV where the government hijacks a jet by remote control, fly in the World Trade Center 6 months before to launch an attack on Afghanistan? Why all these different TV shows and ads about 9/11? Why do they show you what they're going to do before they do it? Is that the lesser magic? So finish up with all the iconography and the archetypes and then continue. So you've got the floor. Just keep rolling.
Good question or good focus there. The revelation of the method. If you can tell your slave ahead of time what you're going to do, how much more power do you have over him? You know, okay, now I'm going to hit you and I'm going to slap you in the face and you're going to stand there and take it. You know, that's one reason why there's the revelation of the method is it freezes people. It literally terrifies some people to realize, whoa, they told us what they were going to do and then they did it. You know, I've seen people frozen in their tracks with that realization. Another thing is it's their inside jolly chuckles. I've watched this over the years. They tell their own people, okay, look at such and such and such, and you'll see we're in control. You know, for instance, a real easy way to make that point is look on the back of the dollar bill. You know, there's the pyramid and the all-seeing eye. What does a pyramid have to do with America? You know, what does this all-seeing eye have to do with America? Nothing, you know. A pyramid might have something to do with Egypt. But they can sit there and tell their people, you see, we have the power to put our logos on the money. We have the power to do this. We have the power to do that. And even their own slaves, their own people, which they enslave, are terrified because, wow, look, they're able to show us right on television what they're going to do. There was all kinds of television shows, cartoons, where they showed the Twin Towers being attacked, comic books. So, you know, they revealed what they were going to do. I'm sure you and a lot of your listeners are aware, if you take the 1 and the 5 and the 10 and the 20 and the 50 and the $100 bill, and you fold them all exactly the same way, and you put them in sequence, denominational sequence, and you flip them, it makes a flip chart. It shows the Twin Towers. They come up, and then the planes flying into them, and they falling down. It's a little motion picture. They do this stuff, and they can show it to someone and their own people or other people, and it's a revelation of their power. They're not having to surprise us on this. They can, okay, I'm going to punch you in the belly, and here it comes. Okay. Is there something suspicious about it? Suspicious. Well, I think the most auspicious thing was what I just mentioned.
Hey, Fritz, the only way, to interrupt you, the only way I can shut up, I'm going to be honest with you, is I am actually going in the control room to let you talk, because I'm so obnoxious, I will interrupt. So I'm actually trying to give you the floor, brother. Go ahead.
I love your comments. This is a conversation here. It's not a monologue. And I have to be careful because sometimes I can get too detail-oriented.
Well, I want to be specific. You've been out of prison almost a year. You decided to come public here. You're obviously getting a lot of heat on you. There were some things you didn't want to get into. You've been told not to get into. Ricky Ross, the biggest cocaine dealer for the CIA on the West Coast, he came on this show, and they, you know, and other shows, and they're trying to put him back in prison. So I warned you up front. We appreciate your courage, but obviously this is stuff they don't want people to be hearing.
Well, I think I'll be relatively okay. We'll see. I mean, you know, I'm a believer, and I also believe that God's in control ultimately, and if He allows certain things, I know that because I love Him, that all things are going to work together for good to those that love Him and are called according to His purpose. You know the quote, and so we have to go forward with faith, and we can't just sit back and cower in fear, which is what some of these things are done. They're intentionally done in a certain way to do that. One of the things, you look back at the Kennedy assassination. Now, they wanted to get rid of JFK for a whole number of reasons, but there could have been a real simple way to do it.
They could have poisoned him. They could have whatever. He had health problems. He was in World War II injured. But instead, they wanted to kill him in public. I want you to speak to JFK and that ritual killing. I know where you're going with this. And then I want you to speak to, because you brought this up without me raising it, why does the Illuminati hate black people so much? Why is there, because they like to kill everybody. Let's be clear about that. You know, some black folks think all white people are part of the Illuminati. You know, average white folks are dumber than, you know, box of bricks or something. You know, dumber than a hammer. But why is there a particular hatred of black people? I want you to get to that after JFK.
They intentionally killed JFK in a public scenario to traumatize the American people, and also just to blatantly show certain people the power that they had. It was definitely a ritual murder. There were a lot of ritual symbology around it.
And by the way, 9/11 was meant to intimidate governments and populations that were aware and informed. That was another, I mean, I want you to speak to that if you disagree or agree. That was done as well to, like, hey, we did this, watch out, we're crazy. We did this in full view.
Exactly. That's why revelation of the knowledge, revelation of the method is one key ingredient, because you can then quietly tell these other governments, look, you're going to come in line.
Okay,
you know?
So I'm going to stop now. 10 minutes, you've got the floor. Go into JFK, go into why they hate black people so much, go into revelation of the method. You've got the floor, so don't stop. You've got it right now.
Okay, well, let's go back to a previous thing that we were discussing that David Icke brought up, and that is whatever we want to call these non-human entities. I'm not going to get into a metaphysical debate as to whether they're aliens or demons or both, but there is definitely higher intelligences that are non-human that have given the Illuminati an agenda, and it's a non-human agenda. It's not human-friendly. It's definitely this wonderful creation of God is slated for destruction, and part of the program of bringing this all about is to population control and war, and part of the process of creating wars is doing events like 9/11. You've got, you know, ostensibly this was done for jihad. That was the symbology supposedly behind 9/11, is we had these Islamic fundamentalists that hated America. We have to be real careful with allowing hate into our life, because the Illuminati loves to manipulate hate. They love to stir up hate and then sit back and watch everybody kill each other. Now, the switching here back to JFK. The JFK assassination has been one of the best means for people to wake up And now I see that 9/11 is also an entryway for people to realize that there's something rotten in Denmark.
So their public flaunting, their open ritual has backfired.
Exactly. You know, they've made a public display of power, but that public display of power is also a means for us to point out that they do have this power and are manipulating things. In the Kennedy assassination, I don't know the current number, whether it's 110 or 119 eyewitnesses were killed in mysterious circumstances. A similar situation happened over in Belgium. I'm kind of shifting channels on you here and going in my own direction. But this is something that a lot of the listeners may not be aware of. And that was, in my 1991 book, I exposed one of the Illuminati's top ritual castles in Europe. And I gave the location.
Yeah, no, listen, right now I'm leaving the studio to make sure you're not interrupted, because I want you to get into that castle, JFK, 9/11. Fritz, lay it out right now. You've got the floor. Do it right now.
Well, from eyewitnesses who had been in rituals in the castle where children were sacrificed, and the blood of these children is drained, and quill pens are filled up, and the blood is used to write an account of what the Illuminati have done that day in bringing about the plan. And so I exposed this ritual castle in southern Belgium. And at first, you know, this was in 1991, and a number of years transpired, and it was like I was a voice in the wilderness and nobody had heard. But eventually it did get heard. And what happened is in Belgium, the Belgian government was toppled. They had big protests in Brussels a couple times where there were over 500,000 Belgians protesting their government. And the reason why is because there was a big scandal that broke loose where people had discovered that there were satanic covens in their government, the government of Belgium, and that there was pedophilia going on. And this got connected in, and people then were able to connect what was going on and some of the people back to this castle that I had exposed. And so Interpol, due to public pressure, sent somebody here in the United States to my house to interview me to find out information about the ritual murders that went on in this castle. Well, this was a very strange way that this FBI agent who was representing Interpol, it was very strange the way he approached this murder investigation. I would just throw out to the listener right now, if you were an FBI agent or a policeman and you were investigating a murder, how would you approach doing it? And then compare that with what happened in this case. The day he arrived at my house, and I was at that time living with friends, I was upstairs in my study on the computer working on one of my books on the Illuminati, and something told me, my sixth sense, or call it the Spirit of God, something told me, you ought to go downstairs right now. And when I went downstairs, Eric, who was the head of the house, my friend, he looked at me and he said, there's an FBI agent in the bathroom, and he's here to ask you questions but he's been trying to get me to throw you out. And he's been asking me why I'm putting up with you living with us, and he's been trying to convince me to throw you out. So I knew from the start that this was a sham investigation, because the FBI agent that came to investigate these murders is trying to turn my friends against me. So he comes out of the bathroom and he starts asking me questions about the castle, and I was friendly with him, but I basically, what ended up happening is I told him that in this investigation he was in over his head, and I was not about to contact my eyewitnesses for him, and I didn't trust anything of what he was doing. And at one point, then he pretended like he had never seen my books, and he grabbed a couple of my mind control books, and he started flipping through it, and he came to a page, and he said, "Oh, you got a mistake here. What do you make of that?" As if he just randomly found that mistake on that page. And I said, "Yeah, I wrote those books and I edited them myself, and you're right, there are errors in there, and I'm responsible." Very strange way to investigate a murder. So here we had something very similar to the Kennedy assassination. And so in order to keep the lid on this scandal, the Illuminati had to kill something in the neighborhood of 120 eyewitnesses over there in Belgium. There's a long list of eyewitnesses, very similar to the JFK assassination, which just mysteriously died. I would encourage anyone who has doubts about the hidden hand, that events are manipulated, I would encourage them to start with the JFK assassination, and then once they see how events were manipulated there, then you can progress to 9/11, and these blatant shows of Illuminati power that were meant to traumatize us can also be flipped for good as a way for the novice to introduce himself to the fact that events are being controlled and manipulated.
Fritz Springmeier is our guest. We've kept him up late at night. I have Theodore, Brian, Joe, Randy, Jeff, and Bryce holding from earlier before Fritz even joined us. Aaron Dykes is going to come in for a few hours. Then we've got Paul Watson. I'll be back with Gerald Celente and others. If you believe in what we're doing and you want to see more of this information, alternative information brought forward to understand our world, donate to the Infowars Money Bomb, InfowarsMoneyBomb.com, or 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. We got a few more folks who are stumbling around, been up all day to take your donation so we can hire a second string who will become first string, because we've got like 4 people and me doing the nightly news every night. I'm up here till like 10 o'clock every night now. On top of the radio, we want to hire another group so that we can like actually not go completely insane, busting our butts here. If you donate to us, InfowarsMoneyBomb.com. I want to thank all of you that have donated. I want to go to phone calls for all the folks that are holding, and then we'll go to break and come back with Aaron Dykes. You can punch out now, Fritz Springmeier, or you can stay with us for another 15 minutes and take these calls. It's your decision, Fritz. What do you want to do?
I'll take the calls. Let's roll.
These calls will be all over the map, and then we'll end there, come for like 5 hours. I'll go take a nap so I'm not completely punch drunk, and then I'll come back and go right through 2 o'clock tomorrow, 27-hour transmission. Aaron Dykes coming up. But Fritz, Any other things, because I've been steering the conversation here to some extent, any other points you want to make before we go to calls?
Oh, we've covered a lot of good points. Let's take the calls.
All right. Now, folks, I just want to add, we are one of the only sellers of Bloodlines of the Illuminati, a book that I read 10 years ago, and a lot of it I couldn't document, doing more research. So much of it has been proven. It really is mind-blowing. This book is now sold out everywhere. The reprinting has started now. If you want to order it, it'll take a few weeks to get it to you because it's being printed now. Infowars.com is the place to get it. And as a side issue, Fritz, I don't want to get into the whole thing, but go ahead.
Illuminati Castle I was talking about, there's 3 pictures of that Illuminati Castle in the Bloodlines book.
I was about to say, I'm somewhat of a novice historian myself, and I noticed that that you've actually got that in here. In fact, I forget, what page is that on, Fritz?
Well, this at the very start, and then when you go to the Rockefeller family, and then there's I don't know where the third one is, but the castle.
What was going on with Marilyn Monroe and mind control? Speak to that, because you've got that here at the very beginning.
Say again?
Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe. She was what's called a presidential model. They, in their need to control everything, they have sexual kittens that, as the president travels around, if he needs sex, they supply him with sexual kittens. It makes it easier for the Secret Service and NSA and CIA to control things if they know who the president's having sex with.
Exactly. Who was Anton LaVey in all of this?
Well, Anton LaVey was, as you know, the head of the Church of Satan. In fact, his son contacted me while I was in prison. His son hated his father. His son was appreciative of the information that I had written exposing Satanism. So I thought that was interesting. Oh,
really? Tell us what his son said to you.
He just said he appreciated what I had written, and that he hated his father because of the abusive satanic things that his father had done, and that he was in recovery, trying to recover from the abuse that he had suffered.
Good.
Anton LaVey was a programmer. As you know, he's died. A lot of people thought he was just a big joke because he had...
No, the word is he was CIA and above that.
Oh, I'm sure he was connected in several ways. And his sidekick, what was it, Michael...
Aquino.
Yeah, was
Temple of Set, Pentagon.
Yeah. So, for a while, they were together in the Church of Satan until Michael Aquino split off. Yeah, we were going somewhere. We were gonna have the listeners ask their questions.
Yeah, it's just there's so much, Fritz. You know, that's the thing is that you just have incredible research, and having you here with us now is just amazing. We'll go to the phone calls. It's just that the final point I want to make before we go to calls, then let you go, and then have Aaron Dykes come here so I can go lay down on the couch and get a few hours sleep, is that people think, oh, you talked about this earlier in the week, they think they're on the winning team joining this, but they destroy their own. I mean, there's no reason when you know the game to join this predatory system. Can you speak to that briefly?
Yes, I spent quite a few years, approximately 10 years, working with people that had been members of the Illuminati over the years, because when I first got started, I didn't know anything about the mind control or how to break it. and I was learning through the School of Hard Knocks, trying to help people escape. And I can categorically say across the board, it is a nightmare to be a member in the Illuminati. They traumatize and torture their own people, and the mind control, you can read about the mind control in some of my books, and it's just horrific. It's way beyond your worst imagination. So that, like you said last time, you don't want to make a deal with the devil. He pays in counterfeit bills, and once he owns your soul, he's just going to torture you. It's not the fun and games that people think it is.
What about rock and roll? I've read the biographies of a lot of famous rockers and famous blues people. I mean, it's not like some Christian view, the devil's involved. These people believe they've sold out to the devil, and they talk about it. I mean, there's something going on this planet.
Yes, and then this rock and roll music, they do satanic rituals over all of the stuff that's put out, and all of the rock and roll across the board has mind control triggers in it, so it's being used for the Illuminati's mind control. Yeah, it's the whole thing's exceptionally wicked, and you can even track the growth and development of the whole industry and see how the Illuminati created it.
Exceptionally wicked.
Yeah.
Yeah, going about continually inventing new forms of wickedness. All right, we'll take these calls, Fritz.
Let's do it.
All right, let's talk to Theodore in Arizona. Theodore, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good. Go ahead.
Good. Could you tell me, Mr. Springmeier, Mr. Jones, what you guys think of Lucifer?
Fritz, you want to take that?
Well, Lucifer is the Gnostic concept of the light bearer. But from the Christian perspective, anything that's in rebellion against God is outside of what's acceptable. And I don't care if Lucifer does bring some form of enlightenment to people. Ultimately, he's just the nice mask of Satan behind.
It's a twisted enlightenment.
Yes.
Does that answer your question?
Same thing with same thing about you, Mr. Jones. Same thing. You'd say the same thing.
Yeah, the god of this world is Lucifer, and the lower level minions are Satanists, but the high level are Luciferians. What's your view of Lucifer?
I agree with you guys. I had to ask that. I want to say that I appreciate you, Mr. Jones, Mr. Springmeier. It's awesome that I caught you guys both at the same time. Anyway, there will be a third party. It will emerge, Mr. Jones, and then there will be leaders that emerge from that. Mr. Paul will kind of catapult all this. You guys are just going to kind of catapult all of this forward, all this work. So it'll be good. It'll be good. I mean, we'll fight it. And then the other thing is that I wrote you some letters. I'm not sure if you got those. I hope you did. There's some really good information in it, specifically for you, Mr. Jones. And I hope you read it. If you did, keep it close. Look at it. Otherwise, I'll see you guys soon. I'm going to be fighting with you guys. I'm always fighting with you guys. I'm right next to you guys. And keep going forward.
Thank you, Theodore. Do you have any comments to what he said, Fritz?
No, let's take the next listener.
Brian in Houston, go ahead.
Alex Jones, very, very good to talk to you. Fritz, thank God that you have been released from prison. I am very, very thankful that you have been released. Alex, thank you so much for the information and the guests that you're having come on this show, because it's information that all of us need. And, I'd like to say one thing to your listeners. The information that Alex is giving you is absolutely, without any equivocation, true. If you don't believe it, take the time for yourself and research the information yourself, because I guarantee you, you will find every drop of this information to be unequivocally correct. What I wanted the two questions that I wanted to bring up, the first one is, Alex, you've been spot on and right on point on several occasions with predictions of your own as to the direction that things are going. With the information that's available to us now, can we as truth-seeking Americans predict in some way, knowing what the end game is, how this will play out over the next 3 to 5 years? Does anybody have any clue?
Now, we know how it's going to play out, and we'll get Fritz's take on this, but it's all up to human activity. It's all up to our will. The system has to twist us to go along with what they're doing. And so it's the great challenge. But they want war, they want staged terror attacks, they want checkpoints, they want depression, they want control. But if we speak out, if we get involved, then that counters their evil. It's only our acquiescence that allows this to manifest. Fritz.
Yeah, I guess the analogy that I might make is God said he would spare a city if he found one righteous man. And so let us be that one righteous person that allows God to spare our area, our city.
That's the only reason North America is even still here with the great evil that controls us. It's like Sodom and Gomorrah. They're like, God, if we can find, and God says, well, you can find one person, I'm going to spare the city. And that's what it comes down to, is like Nineveh with a 100-year reprieve. What we do shapes the world.
Exactly. I'm ready for the next listener.
Sure. We'll go back to Brian's gone, but I interrupted you with my zest. Finish your point about God passing over cities.
One thing that happens is there's a prophetic pattern, and that is God allows Satan to do certain things, and then he goes beyond what he's allowed to. Just for instance, like the legal system, maybe when they arrest you, instead of just sticking with the facts, they go way beyond the facts, like they did in my case. They just made up facts. Well, what that does is it allows God to move in on that situation and bring judgment on those people, those evil people. So sometimes some of these things have been allowed by God because it's going to allow him to bring judgment on these people, because they're going to go beyond what God has, just like in Job, God said, yes, you can touch them here, here, and here, but don't go there, So there are a lot of spiritual dynamics going on. And that's why I encourage people to stand up for what's right. People get so discouraged and they go, well, what can we do? I'm just one person. Well, one person can save a city. One person can turn things around. Alex Jones is just one person. I'm just one person. And so...
I agree with you, Fritz. At the end of the day, I believe that's my mission, is to show people, as imperfect as I am or you are, what one person can do. Finish. Go ahead.
That's a good place to take the next question.
All right. Brian in Houston's gone. Let's talk to Joe in San Marcos. And I guess San Marcos is in Texas, too. I guess that's south of Austin. Are you calling from Texas, Joe?
Yeah, San Marcos.
Go ahead.
I'd like to, I think the root of the problem is psychopathy. And I'd like you to go into detail about what psychopathy is, how brain scans of psychopaths show that they're different. They are malfunctioning humans, almost like a cancer. And if you could go into detail about what psychopathy is, how important it is for people to understand to protect themselves.
Well, we know that maybe 1 out of 200, 300 people, they debate the numbers, is a psychopath and doesn't just not feel people's pain, but actually sadomasochistic or masochistic psychopaths. And then you get into this whole point that, you know, myself, I don't feel violent against anybody until I see them hurting innocents, women, children. And then it's a violent rage. But see, they would actually enjoy hurting innocents. It's the opposite. Fritz, what's your comment on that?
I think the point he brought up allows me to introduce something very, very important. A very important thing. I hope the listeners catch this. Typically, people say the Illuminati can't do this or they can't do that because, and they extrapolate and think that the Illuminati think like they do. If you look at brain scan of somebody who's a multiple personality, if you look at like what the caller was talking about, people that are psychopaths and sociopaths, their brains are physically different. We're not talking about people running the Illuminati that think like us at all. They're totally different. Do not think that these people, if they're even people, they're
not of this world. I mean, spiritually, mentally, the brain scans, I've seen the maps, they're not us. And that's why we have a blind spot to them.
Exactly. And that's an important point for people to get across is because they go, well, if I was in their shoes, I would do this, this, and this. It has nothing to do with how you think. They don't think anything like we do. Nor are their brains physically the same as ours.
What's from your research? They're artificially trying to create this in the general public, obviously, but genetically or historically, how many people out of 1,000 are like this?
Well, the mind control here in the United States, when I went to prison, it was about 1 in 40 had the total Illuminati mind control. It's probably a higher percentage now. And that's a lot of multiple personalities walking around. They give multiple personality disorder, or they call it DID. They give it a lot of other names, you know, bipolar, you know, or this or that. So it's
what's inducing it? A cocktail of the chemicals in the food, the TV, because obviously most of them weren't actually taken to some facility.
Yeah, they're actually taking a lot of them to facilities. The facilities are a lot more
numerous,
available, and there's a lot more of them than what one might realize. And it doesn't take much to have a simple programming place. Anyway, I didn't answer your question on the blacks.
Well, it just seems the New World Order has a particular fancy towards doing stuff to black folks. Is that because they're just seen as, on average, as poor and it's kind of a fair game group like Native Americans, or what's happening on that front?
They have had a hatred against that racial group from early on, and all down through their history. They will use them. They will find blacks that they can use.
Herman Cain.
But they have an utter disdain for the race, and I really can't explain it except that they think that they are superior. Of course, they feel that way towards the rest of us, too. So
no, I know, but I mean, historically, from your research, why? I mean, there is like HIV engineered, all that. Why is that?
Well, I think they consider the blacks kind of, I don't know, a subspecies or something that's a lower group. That's a good question. There's a lot of prejudice amongst the Illuminati towards that. That's why you see within the Masons, the Prince Hall Lodge, they say we believe in the brotherhood of all men, but the blacks are the only race that have to have their own lodge system, the Prince Hall Lodge system. I don't have all the answers on that. I've sat there and listened to some of their thinking about blacks or this or that. I guess if you really believe that stuff, I guess that's a reason.
All right, let's rampage through 3 final calls. Randy, Jeff, and Bryce, and we'll let Fritz Springmeier go, author of Bloodlines of the Illuminati. Let's go to Randy in Indiana. Go ahead.
How you doing, Alex?
Good.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you for help completing my awakening. I've felt pretty much all my life that things were wrong, and just like Fritz said earlier, 9/11 was the catalyst that brought me to you and woke me up, and rather fortuitous, I caught the interview earlier this week with Fritz, and I found the book online about the mind control, and I've read up to the 2nd chapter and just absolutely floored me. And you guys were talking earlier about the rock music, and I was just wondering, I've found a lot of songs that the message to me seems like what's going on, and we need to be aware and eventually fight. And I was just wondering what...
Well, yeah, you got like Muse and all these other bands. I've talked to some of them. They're actually awake. It's not like one monolithic structure, but certainly the 60s, 70s, that 80s, that period there was control, but now it doesn't seem, from my research, there's as much control over it. Fritz?
One of the things that's happened in the music industry is it's diversified. Everybody can have their own little band that they like. So yeah, there has been some of that going on, like you say, Alex, where instead of having the big band, the Elvis Presley type person or Tom Dorsey band or whatever, it's diversifying in recent years. That's something that's been going on while I was down in prison.
Yeah, I mean, again, a lot of this is clearly Illuminati messages, but I've talked to some of these people now, and you hear the message about standing up against tyranny. They've lost control. That's the thing. The globalists have control, but more and more they're losing control. It's a great quandary. They're not all powerful. Randy, thank you. Jeff in New York, then Bryce, and then we're done. Jeff, go ahead.
Alex, I love you. Alex, grab a cup of coffee because I need you real quick, okay?
Okay.
Fritz, the infamous bank robber, is that right? That's a joke. I just was introduced to you recently on Alex's show, and for the listeners, go through YouTube and check out this gentleman's work. It's incredible, truly incredible. Also, I just want to throw something in real quick. Max Egan, I-G-A-N, on YouTube also. But Fritz, very nice to see you. You look great. I need your help, you guys. Listen, I want to talk to you here. What I've been doing is taking inbound sales calls for, let's say, a major gaming company, and I do that at home. Okay, so I take these inbound calls at home, and I don't know, about 10 years ago, I put some commercials that lightheartedly poked fun at George Bush back when I was still in the left-right paradigm, and ever since I've been experiencing some harassment, you would say. Well, now that I'm taking these inbound calls, it has stepped up, and it's interesting that you brought the black thing into it. It is interesting because, you know, part of what they were doing, call me N-word lover for a while. Now they're what they would do is actually, let's see, I was having a conversation with my girlfriend about how we're all turning into $10 an hour slaves. 5 minutes later, I get a call. The guy spells out his email, and it comes to You're a Laundry Room Slave 2 at yahoo.com. So my question being, you know, is this like part of do they have like minions out there? obviously they can see. Oh, by the way, they did tell me I was fixing myself some coffee, and he said, "Did you put enough cream in that coffee?" and hung up on an inbound.
Well, let me explain what's happening. They got algorithms that track you, that know who you are, that know when you tend to cook coffee. They've got, with these new smart meters that scan your electricity, they can tell off the algorithm on your TV, off the power fluctuation, what you're watching. That was in the San Francisco Chronicle today. And they have millions in the U.S. of people hired for Department of Defense, think tanks, consortiums, different groups, to harass, to troll. This is their army online. This is in the news. Operation Sock Puppet, Megaphone, all of that. We will watch one person with 20 different handles on my website, Infowars.com, having fake discussions about everyone agrees Alex Jones, works for the Vatican or Keebler Elves or whatever, or the Illuminati or whatever. And we will watch the same person. We let them operate because we're learning about these people, but that's all admitted. And so what happens is it's just gangs of crooks that try to knock down the nail that sticks up. And there's a lot of this. This has been confirmed. This has been in the news. Fritz, your comment on it.
Yes, and once they start harassing somebody, once you're on the poop list, it doesn't seem like you come off. It's just this thing will be ongoing for years. And I know lots of people that have ongoing harassment year in, year out. And
but we call it enjoyment. The calls constantly at the house, the mail being sent to us from the harassment, the death threats. I mean, Fritz, that's a sign you're over the target.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so just enjoy it, sir. I mean, that means you did the right thing. I mean, this is a real badge of honor here. You ought to really enjoy this.
Look what's happened to Fritz, though. I mean, what an incredible story for that to happen to him. Of course, and now they're calling me pedophile. Let me tell you, I actually changed location, went out west to New Mexico, ended up having tires slashed, cell phones stolen, and keys stolen out of the ignition within 24 hours. Went to Florida looking for work, same harassment. Come back up to New York, and my girlfriend's tires are slashed.
Well, you might have worked in some project, too. I've seen that with certain people that worked in things that weren't really clear what they were working in. Thank you so much, Jeff. Final caller for Fritz Springmeier, Bryce in Missouri. You're our tail gunner. Go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you for taking my call, guys. I appreciate what you're doing. Staying up this late at night. Please excuse me for my cold. I got a question, and then I want to make a comment, and then dovetail that, because I think I can answer that question about why blacks are targeted. But my question is I have a documentary shortly coming out, and I use clips from you, Ike, Alan Watt, you name it, even Springmeier. I have a clip from his book, Bloodlines of the Illuminati. So I'm wondering, A, is it okay to use those clips in the film as long as it's nonprofit? I mean, we're just talking about a YouTube video. And B, what's your take on the whole community of conspiracy theorists wanting to use each other's material? Is that
let me just stop right there. As long as you're using a small clip of something and analyzing it, it's fair use. It's whole works that are the issue. My mission is everything's out there, whatever. There's a lot of folks that fight with each other and territorially fight over information. It's better to not ask permission and ask forgiveness later than to worry. People call me and say, can I paint your website on my car? Well, number one, don't ask my permission, but yes, you've got a First Amendment right. So, Fritz, your comment on that?
Yeah, you have permission from me to use that small clip, and while I was in prison, all of my material's been pirated and put up on the internet for free anyway, and in the long run, it brought benefits to me and other people. So, that's one of the blessings of the free flow of information. As an author, I'm reluctant to allow people to print my books and sell them. I know a few people have even done that.
Sure, they alter them too. I mean, you've got to control your basic copyright for a full work, or they can manipulate it.
Right, that, and people need to take into consideration the hard work and the money and the time that goes in to produce these things, and realize that if you're stealing money from the person who's created this, that you're actually making it harder for them to continue doing what they're doing.
Absolutely. Well, Fritz, an incredible hour and 35-minute interview. I look forward to speaking to you soon. Your book, Bloodlines, the Illuminati, available at Infowars.com. If people want to contact you, what's the email?
It's SpringmeierMessages@hotmail.com. And Springmeier is spelled SPRINGMEIER, and then messages@hotmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Fritz. I know it's 12:35 where you're at, so I'm going to let you go ahead and get some sleep. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Alex. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for coming on with us. All right, Aaron Dykes is going to come up after this video, and we've already had Texe Mars, Alfred Adask, George Noory, David Icke, Mike Adams, Webster Tarpley, Dr. Katherine Albrecht, Joel Skousen. Coming up at 7 a.m., they're going to have an incredible, never-before-seen inside Skull and Bones information. 7 o'clock, 7 a.m., that's 8 Eastern a.m. I guess that'd be 6 in the morning, or no, 5 in the morning Pacific, 6 in the morning Mountain. That's all coming up. Aaron Dykes is still in there working on that. And we've got more Alan Watts coming up, Jim Mars, Bob Chapman, of course. I'm going to go make myself lay down for about 4 or 5 hours, and they're on the floor. And then I'm going to come back here, and I'll be live, hopefully re-energized. Jesse Ventura called me, talked to him and others several times this evening. The feds have thrown out his case. All he's asked for was a day in court with his TSA groping. That's coming up. I know at midnight, 12:37 Pacific, 1:37 Mountain, 2:37 Central, 3:37 Eastern. There's a lot of folks still watching the free streams and helping these out to folks. But if you haven't donated, if you don't have the funds, do not donate. I do not want money from people that are not in a good position. But if you are in a good position, you're nuts not to give to Infowars.com at InfowarsMoneyBomb.com. It's InfowarsMoneyBomb.com or Infowars.com. Because we are the tip of the spear. There's nobody fighting the globalists as hardcore as we are. No one can doubt that. We want to hire some more people for the TV show and some more equipment and things, and it just helps us be more robust and more powerful in this fight against the globalists. We're small, but we're strong, like an ice pick going right into the New World Order's gut. So we're going to be back in the morning. I'll also play a song called International by some of the other folks in our crew. We'll do that in the morning. As long as if you're going to bed, Chris, you can remind them I'll play that song from Animal, put out by Derek Einkoff and Chris and others. That's right, Chris Elanese in there. He wants his thing plugged. It is good music. You heard Weldon Henson in here earlier. But if you haven't donated to Infowars.com via the Money Bomb, you really should. Because we're on the front lines, slugging toe-to-toe with the globalists, risking our name, our treasure, our sacred honor, the whole 9 yards. And we're going to have operators here for another 30 minutes or so. So if you want to call and donate, 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. That's 888-253-3139 or InfowarsMoneyBomb.com. And if that site's sluggish because of all the people visiting it, Infowars.com. You can find it all right there. We're going to go to a video. What do we got next coming up video-wise? Yeah, we'll do a couple minutes of music and then go to Aaron Dykes, and he will continue with your calls and a bunch of other news straight ahead. And then the premiere of the Skull and Bones special. Incredible information, really shock we're even bringing you this type of incredible breaking news we've been sitting on top of like an evil chicken for about a year as we try to get it together. Horrible hen and then we'll get to all the other guests. Paul Watson's coming up and others, so spread the word about the free video links. I'm going to punch out for a few hours and come back re-energized, and Ventura's coming up and a lot more. So stay with us. It's InfoWarsMoneyBomb.com 2011, your choice to donate to the absolute tip of the spear going right into the eye of the Cyclopsian New World Order. Stay with us.
You may be arrested and or subject to other police action.
Tyranny is here. The grim future foretold in 1984 has become reality.